Hey, fellow babies. Welcome back to the Pachter Factor on SIFTD.net. Hope you're a member and watching it real time. If you're not, for a discounted price of $40, you can join in December. We'd love it if you're a new member and you join. We'll give you a $10 discount. If you're not a SIFTD member, we understand. You're watching on YouTube a week later. Happy to have your patronage. But again, SIFTD produces this content. It actually costs money, so we could use some support. You get a lot of high quality premium content if you join as a member, so give it a try. All right, this week's first question from the SIFTD site comes from Kidaz. Do you think sex in video games is starting to be accepted in the mainstream, or are we still one bored media outlet away from another fake controversy? I think that's a great question. You know, we had this really huge reaction to the sex scene that was buried in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas back in '05. And it was a huge controversy. And I think I remember God of War had some sex and people were kind of freaked about it. But the game that actually kind of slipped by, that I never heard a word about except from game people, was The Witcher. And The Witcher, apparently, you know, you could like grab a prostitute and hop in bed and having sex restored your health or whatever. Like, it was part of the game. And I think because The Witcher was published by, you know, kind of a lower, I mean, by Warner Brothers, but CD Projekt Red, it's not like a big name studio, great game. Published by Warner and not really a big, you know, deal. I think that it just flew under the radar and nobody was looking. If you had exactly the same scene, you know, in even Elder Scrolls, I think it would have been noticed. If you had that scene in Call of Duty, not that it would lend into, you know, help the story, it would have been a huge controversy or a mass effect. So I think the board media outlets are selective in who they criticize. I think there is a notion here of false equivalency and outrage, and they'll get outraged if it's a game that they've heard of that's popular. They don't get outraged if it's in The Witcher. So yes, I think we're one board media outlet away from a fake controversy. The fact is that an M-rated game like Witcher, you know, it's a 17 and up thing, so why does anybody care? And again, it's not like they're actually showing genitals, you know, copulating or whatever. It's not that graphic. I think it's pretty stupid, but yes, I think we're one board media outlet away from another fake controversy. Very well put. Our next question from SIFTD, from Fruit Eater. How big of an impact will Overwatch League have on esports in America, considering how similar it is to the NFL? Well, I guess we'll see. You know, I think it's interesting. I think the Overwatch League has about the same appeal as women's tennis. So it's popular, people love it, they appreciate the skill level, but probably only about 10 or 20 million women play tennis, you know, play it competitively and try. I mean, there's only 320 million people in the US, so I'm just picking that number. I don't know what. Seems like a lot. Yeah, I'm probably too high. Well, US is half of Overwatch, so probably 10 million. So it's probably right. I mean, it's probably similar in size to that. And so, sure, people who love Overwatch will think it's really cool and they'll watch it. I think that Activision is going to try to build a spectator base and build something. And so honestly, I think it's similar to the NFL in the 1930s when it wasn't that popular, but it existed. It's got a narrow appeal. And so, you know, I think that encouraging more people to play is smart. You know, being inclusive and bringing more and more and more people in, however, as players, spectators, has to help underlying, you know, the sales of the game. So I totally get that. I think, though, that until Activision has, or Blizzard has, the game that everybody wants to play, which right now is League of Legends, I think they're gonna be, you know, not as good as a League of Legends league. Now, I know Overwatch would like to replace League of Legends as the preferred esports game, and they might. I mean, they absolutely might. So far they're managing to do that in Korea. It'll happen. I think the problem is, and if I'm wrong, correct me, but I think that every single game that they played was won by the Korean team that won the Overwatch tournament at BlizzCon a few weeks ago. I think they won every game. So I have to say, I think in the US, in America, because that's your question, I don't think Americans feel very good when we get our butts whomped by Koreans. And again, I'm not saying this as any kind of a knock on the Korean guys. They're amazing. But the point is, I think America will embrace an American sport dominated by Americans, because that's how we think, that's how we're wired. So the NFL tends to be that. You know, it's primarily an American sport. All our kids play, you know, football, and then then the good ones play in college, and the great ones make it to the NFL. The Overwatch League, if it's consistently dominated by Korean kids that are kicking all the US kids' ass, I think it's going to have trouble thriving. So we'll see. Yeah, so I think Korea dominates esports because it kind of was born there. I mean, they were doing StarCraft tournaments before there were StarCraft tournaments, so they kind of figured it out before people realized. And I just think it's culturally completely acceptable, encouraged. Parents wear it as a badge of honor that my kid is great at whatever esport. And, you know, I think that will actually happen in the US as well. That's why I said the NFL in the 30s. You know, every high school didn't play football in the 1930s, but they all play football now. So, you know, we've got to encourage this. And where I really think an Overwatch League in esports makes sense is if schools start sponsoring it. And I don't mean colleges, I mean high schools. If you see high schools sponsoring esports, that would be cool. Like, make that an extracurricular activity, that would be massively cool. That's when I think it actually could become a big deal. I think we're years away. I don't think we're 20 years away. I think we're 5, but I think we're years away. Okay, our next question comes from Twitter, from @AdamPrestige. Was EA insane to release Titanfall 2 so close to Battlefield 1? That's a very funny question, because I remember when they announced that, I went, they're insane. So yeah, I think that was pushing the envelope. And I think especially in the context of Call of Duty coming out, because I think that the audience for the 3 games is a similar pool of people. Now, I think that people play either Call of Duty or Battlefield, and in a normal year, they're both kind of very similar. They're both kind of Modern Warfare. Battlefield went retro, which was actually smart. I questioned it at the time, but pretty smart. Call of Duty went future, which I think is kind of dumb, but you know, but again, they at least partition the, you know, where they are. They're far away from one another, so I think they kind of made sense. And then Titanfall smack dab in the middle. I'm not sure why EA did that. I think partly because EA wanted to get, you know, 10 million units or more sold of Titanfall, and had they launched it in February, they would have trouble doing so because it would only have 6 weeks kind of out of the holiday period. I think that had Respawn been able to get Titanfall 2 done, they would have pushed it forward and maybe launched it in, you know, July, and it would have actually been a good cadence. But yes, I think that launching them a week apart means that the 2 games, Battlefield and Titanfall, are cannibalizing one another, and that Call of Duty is going to cannibalize both. So I think it's tough. It's hard to do it. Very few people are going to buy all 3. My best guess is, you know, 10% of Call of Duty players will buy Titanfall because they'll try it. And 10% of Battlefield players will buy Titanfall because they'll try it. So that gets Titanfall to 3.5 million. And then a whole bunch of Fallout players will buy Titanfall. And a whole bunch of Assassin's Creed players will buy Titanfall. And a whole bunch of people who don't buy Call of Duty every year will buy Titanfall and Battlefield. So I actually think there's room. That's where this audience for all these games comes from. So does it really matter? I mean, only because they're from the same publisher. If they're from different publishers, you wouldn't have asked, I wouldn't be answering. I think EA has more flexibility, and the problem is they couldn't have pulled it forward. They needed it this year to grow their earnings. They didn't want to push it late because it would have caused them to have trouble making their earnings. So I think it's just an unfortunate victim of when they needed it to sell enough units. As it happens, of those 3 games, Titanfall got the highest review scores. Our next question comes from SIFTD, from Bibbs. Considering the poor sales of the recently discontinued Wii U, do you think Nintendo's strategy of bolstering the Switch's first-year lineup with enhanced ports of Wii U games a good idea? Yes, I do. I think you've got to have the biggest games you can get on that platform. And Nintendo's got, you know, Super Mario franchises, they've got Zelda franchises, they've got Kirby, they've done pretty much each of those, I guess, for Wii U. You've got to support Switch with those things, you have to. They've got this IP, they didn't monetize it well. For sure the Switch will be as powerful as the Wii U, and likely more powerful. They'll be able to figure it out, it's their IP. So yes, I think scaling it up to work on Switch is like making Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered, you know, work on PS4 and Xbox One. They will be able to do that. They're going to have to do that. And if you are one of the hundreds of millions of people who like games who didn't buy a Wii U, it's new to you. So what do you care? The only people who get screwed are Wii U owners who bought those games. But short of that, if Switch is going to succeed, yes, I think it's a great idea. I think they have to do it. Okay. Our last question this week from Twitter, from @Ramrod366. Why did Nintendo stock go down after the Switch reveal? I only saw positive reactions from the trailer. For a couple of reasons. One is that the Switch is a handheld. Now, it may have a console component because you have a docking station, you can play it on your TV, but it's primarily a handheld. And I think that investors who like Nintendo stock, who have bid the stock up, are making a bet on an all-mobile strategy, which I don't think is coming. So they incorrectly have assumed that Pokemon Go is a Nintendo-owned property, and they have incorrectly assumed that Nintendo's going to make billions and billions and billions of dollars from Fire Emblem and Animal Crossing, and then later from Super Mario Run. And anything that shows a shift away from mobile focus hurt the stock. So the people who were in it for mobile saw Switch and said, oh, they're not all mobile all the time. You guys knew they weren't. I knew they weren't, but investors aren't that smart. So, you know, they aren't that up on the industry. They're smart in general. They're not that smart about Nintendo. So I think that was the biggest driver. There was some disappointment because it was a handheld, which meant to them it's going to be an underpowered console. I'm still not sure, and I've had people push back. I mean, it's a Tegra chip, it can't be powerful. Who knows? I mean, who knows what goes in chips nowadays? It's a new Tegra chip. It's not, they're not basing it on, you know, what's in the Shield. It's going to be a different chip, so we'll see. And we have no specs, so we'll see. I mean, all they're doing is saying they're going with NVIDIA. We don't know what this thing's going to be, but it connoted underpowered. So it connoted Wii U 2, you know, that it's just a repeat of the Wii U. And remember, it is a tablet with controllers that goes in a docking station. I think a lot of people saw vestiges of the Wii U tablet, which is not called a tablet, it's called a gamepad. But they saw, you know, vestiges of that, and I think they thought it was Wii U 2. So primarily, it reflected a lack of commitment to mobile. Secondarily, it showed that Nintendo was stubbornly sticking to handheld, and tertiarily, it looked like Wii U 2. So those are the three reasons stock went down. With that, I've got to take my leave for the week, month, and year. I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday. We're coming right up upon it. Look at how snowy and cold it is in Southern California. Appreciate your joining us. If you're a member of SIFTD.net, thank you very much. If you're not, you've got another few days, weeks to join. Only new members given a $10 discount for $40 for the year. And if you're not a member, that's cool. We welcome you on YouTube. We appreciate your support. Happy holidays, and everybody have a great new year. Bye-bye.